How are we motivated? It's an interesting question. It's an important question as well when we think about us as designers of software, because quite often we want our users to engage in certain types of behavior or to do certain activities. And motivation offers really quite a powerful way of encouraging and enabling that to happen. So in this short presentation, we're going to have a look at some of the factors that can help motivate us or help sustain our motivation. We'll start off first of all thinking about the differences between intrinsic versus extrinsic rewards. So by intrinsic we mean things that are internal to the individual. So I may be motivated to do something because I want to master it, I have a curiosity in it, it's something that's interested, it's my own internal reasons. Extrinsic rewards are ones that are external to me. So it could be maybe I'm going to get paid for doing this, or there's points, or there's badges, or there's something else external that I get from doing the task. And we can use both of these potentially as ways of saying to people, look, here's a reason why you'd want to do it. Here's a reason to be motivated. And if we're thinking then about what's more effective, well, its intrinsic behavior is a stronger long-term motivator than extrinsic behavior. They've done a number of different tests in this here, and one of the things they find then is that for extrinsic behavior, that's what gets associated and attached with a particular task, not the actual task itself. So people focus on what they get as opposed to what they're doing, and at some point you generally remove or you don't have the extrinsic rewards, and then it really has quite a negative detrimental effect on how motivated people are. So where possible, certainly when we're thinking about how do we best motivate our users, we want to focus on intrinsic aspects, things like mastery, curiosity, and trying to think about how do we best elicit and tease these out and get the user interested in those aspects, because they'll provide better forms of motivation. With regard to that then, so things like progress, mastery and control, they're all good motivators and are all good things then that we can try to integrate into our software. And there's a number of ways we can do that to enable it to happen most effectively. One of the ways is to highlight small steps that help bring people towards their goal. So one of the things about motivation is that if something seems to be difficult or sizable, it acts as a barrier to motivation. But if something is easy and quick to do, and it brings people towards a goal, then that's quite an easy thing to do. And you'll quite often find this in different sites when, for example, you can see the image here on the screen when they're talking about a profile, it's 50% complete. You can then see, oh, you've done this. You just click on this button and add in this little bit of extra information. You'll have a more complete profile, and that'll let people feel then that they're making progress, they're having more mastery or more control over their particular software that you're using. Importantly then, one of the things you want to think about, and this ties into intrinsic forms of motivation, is how do we help our users set their own goals? So we can get them to set their goals that are meaningful to them. We can provide, hopefully, them with the tools that enable them to track their own goals. And if we can do that, that's going to be a really key element then to have ways of building up motivation. And you've lots of online content that fundamentally is based in that model, and Wikipedia is probably a perfect example of that. Another aspect in terms of how do we carry on and build up motivation once we've established it, well, the closer we get to a goal, the more motivated we are to actually reach that goal. So we tend to focus on what we have left to do and what's the challenge in doing that, as opposed to thinking, well, how far have I come? Both are important, but in terms of what people generally put more emphasis on is what's left to do. So if you've got a choice, it's better to highlight what you need to do to meet something as opposed to highlight what has already been done. And we can use lots of different ways through our interface design then to sort of articulate and to show how visually close the user is to achieving their particular goal, and that then can help motivate the users. One of the things that we need to be careful about this is that quite often then when people meet their goal, there can be a drop in motivation unless we have helped them think about, well, what do they want to do after it? What are they going to build upon? What new activity are they going to set as their own goal? So we are motivated to compete if there's fewer competitors. This is quite an interesting experiment done by Garcia and Tor, where they had students sitting in a room on their own, so they couldn't see any other participants. And they were given a short quiz, and they were told, complete this quiz as quickly as you can. And they were also then informed that the top 20% of people, now, but we note here 20% is a relative number. So if there's 20 other people taking part, then that's 4 students as the top 10%, or sorry, top 20%. And if there's 100 people taking part, then it's the top 20 students. So 20% is a relative amount. It doesn't really matter what the absolute number is. 1 in 5 people, the top 1 in 5, is then going to get a prize. So everybody was told that as well. So that, from a logical point of view, should mean that if I'm in the top 20%, then I'll get my prize. Alongside that, one group was then told that they were competing against 10 other students. So it's really group size of 11, but let's assume sort of the top 2 people, they would get a prize. The second group, they were told, actually, you're competing against 100 other students. So 20 will get a prize overall. They measured how long it actually took students then to complete the task. And those that were in the small group, even though they had the same chances, so to speak, of success, they actually completed significantly faster than those who were in the larger group. And one of the things they show then is that if we feel that we are up against, in terms of a competition, a large number of other competitors, we somehow internalize that as, oh, we're not going to win. It lowers our motivation. If we feel that there's only a small number of competitors, that can help increase our motivation. So takeaway in this here is that gamification and competition, they're both quite good and powerful mechanisms to help bring about motivation and to build it up, because that's another aspect then in terms of sort of fun or competitive activities that can motivate people. If we're doing that though, we want to make sure that in terms of what we present to the user is a reasonably small group then in terms of who they are competing against, and that will help maximize their overall chances. So that's all we're going to look at here is a few sort of tips and advice in terms of things we can think about to help improve motivation. The video after this, we're going to carry on. We're going to have a look then at how we make mistakes. I suppose then is an important element of something we always do, an important element of what we want to try to then capture and cater for inside our programs.